I'm going to be responding to is Jacob Tyra's speeding up the death penalty is crucial to California. My opponent's secondary claims are: 1, the cost of executing an inmate on death row proves to be a lesser cost than housing an inmate for life. 2nd, inmates are kept on death row for too long, which proves inmates are not in fear of being served justice for their crimes. And 3rd, California's prisons are becoming overcrowded and are short of resources to death row inmates. To begin, the major claim of his argument was to educate the audience that speeding up the death penalty is crucial to California. According to Huffington Post's Kim Belware, Proposition 66 in 2016 has already been passed. Proposition 66 is a California ballot to change the procedures of trials to speed them up, along with the executions. So, meaning California has already voted to speed up the trials of trials and executions. If they speed up the executions, if the speed of executions were a problem currently, Proposition 66 probably wouldn't have been passed. According to LA Times and the National Coalition to Abolish Death Penalty, there's information about the risk of fentanyl use and saving money by streamlining or even abolishing the death penalty. However, Proposition 62, which was the proposition to abolish the death penalty completely in California, was overridden by Proposition 66. It was claimed that maintaining a death row inmate can cost taxpayers $90K per year. But however, according to LA Times, eliminating the death penalty completely would have saved California $100 million per year. Second, the claim of inmates being kept on death row for too long, causing them to lose fear in the death penalty, can serve as an ethical issue. Yes, that my opponent said that his research of Douglas Stenkiewicz calling the death penalty a joke and that he wasn't afraid of it only speaks on behalf of one of the inmates that are currently on death row. However, keeping them waiting, it could be possibly a form of torture and it's inhumane. And as of today, there are 747 people awaiting their execution on death row. And in the past, 137 previous inmates were proven innocent while awaiting their execution date. So how many people are innocent that we have yet to find? And with the adamant process of the death penalty, there can be possibly innocent people dying for accusations of something that they didn't even do. Finally, for the inmates, for California's prisons are becoming overcrowded and short of resources for the death row inmates. According to Robin Respat, overcrowding in a prison has a solution that can kill two birds with one stone. So California came up with a reform program to improve criminal sentencing for overpopulations of the prisons. And the reform not only saved billions of dollars for the state, but it also met the court's requirements and mandates. The price tag for housing, feeding, and caring for a prisoner, yes, it has upped a lot since the past 20 years. It actually upped 3 times, and it is true that housing inmates for life and even on death row can cost a lot. It is relevant that the state spends more than 3 times the amount, but however, Proposition 66 was passed, putting California in a content state of where the money was going. So in conclusion, I believe that the claim being the speeding up the death penalty is crucial to California, alongside with Proposition 66, it's already been sped up. Thank you.
All right, you did the right structural stuff at the beginning, identifying the proposition, the secondary claims. You're labeling everything in the body of the speech, so that's clear and easy to follow. On your first point, basically your claim comes down to this cost issue being relatively moot because we have made a change in the policy that is supposed to accelerate the rate at which people are executed. So I guess your argument here is that this means that there isn't going to be this long lag anymore. Although that's a little contradictory to a couple of positions that you take later on. The idea, though, that this problem has already been addressed, I think, is a good point to make and suggests that maybe the argument that is being presented by the advocate is reflective of something that no longer exists, and we should be waiting to discuss whether or not this continues to be a problem until after we've seen what the effects of Proposition 66 are. I thought that was fine. The argument about abolishing the death penalty, saving $100 million, yeah, I think you're going to have to, kind of pick here. You're trying to play both against it. You can make the argument that says, look, we're addressing this problem and the system's going to, decrease cost because it'll accelerate these things, or we're going to abolish it, because we ran into the same issue with Proposition 62 to get rid of the death penalty and Proposition 66 to make it work faster, and they're contradictory kind of positions, and so I'm not sure that you can get away with arguing the contradictory position and be convincing on that. On the ethical issue, that's of course outside the purview of the particular assignment. The argument that suggests that there is no fear, there's no deterrence as a consequence of that, I'm not sure that the advocate developed that particularly strongly, and your answer to it doesn't do a huge amount to alter that position. It basically comes down to you've got a counterclaim here that is not very clearly explained. In other words, if we accelerate this, there's a risk that we will make things worse rather than better, and your argument is that the way we would make it worse is we would endanger potentially innocent people. I think that's the argument that you're making. I didn't think it was made very clearly, so you need to have distinctive secondary points on that second point. And then the third point on overcrowding, again, you're basically saying, well, this is a moot point. We've already got a reform here that's fixing this, but now it's a different issue. It's addressing the crowding issue, which is fine, except that, of course, that doesn't address the issue of whether or not the death penalty and our failure to execute people has any impact on that. And I think you just look to one of the numbers that you talked about up above. There's 747 convicts awaiting execution. What's the prison population? If we're going to fix overcrowding by getting rid of 750 people, that seems like it would be miraculous. I think your argument here is the good one that you're talking about, but you also could make the argument that says, look, it's not that big a problem as because of this particular source, because that's what the advocate's argument was. All right, thank you.